Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Circus of Safety videocast where Andy, Des and I, Brenton, look to guide you through the thrilling world of health and safety with a little bit of laughter, a little bit less knowledge, and a wee bit of magic. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Des, how are you this morning, mate?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, mate, just tickety-boo, living the dream, thank you, living the dream. Mr. Evans, how are you this morning, sir?
Very well, very well. A bit slow. The internet's not playing. Hopefully, we'll get through it all right.
Well, I don't know about you, Andy, but it's raining where I am, and I know. I mean, you live out in Pukekohe, mate, so a little bit of rain will no doubt affect the internet speed drastically.
That's probably true. And we've had a lot of rain.
We've had a lot of rain. Hey guys, now listen. Last episode, episode 9, because this is episode 10, so it generally goes sequentially like that: 9, 10. Groundbreaking,
Wow.
right? Groundbreaking. Last show we had we spoke about risk matrices, and we got a huge amount of feedback on that show, which was great. Some really positive feedback. People not only commenting on our LinkedIn page, which is where most of them come in, but even so inspired they were making comments on our Spotify page. Now that's pretty cool. So that's a whole nother level for this show. So we're definitely breaking ground, but I just want to bring one of those bits of feedback to the forefront here, and this show we've got a lot of award-winning followers here. It's a show full of award-winning followers, and this comment comes from Shavashni Simmons. Andy, I believe you know Shavashni. Now, this is a bit of a shout out to you, mate. She actually remembers your post on the high vis colors. Well done, Des. You're getting out there, mate. People are reading what you've got to say. How do you feel?
I'm honoured. That's very nice of her to give us that feedback. Excellent.
Great. Hey, now listen. Before we get a bit carried away with ourselves, as always, we need to protect ourselves. As so important in this day and age. You just don't know what diseases are out there. So, I mean, we just don't know what litigation lies ahead. But now, again, Des, mate, listen. You know, we're talking all fair before we got online. You might need to do a side shoot here. Your disclaimers are just taken off, right?
Yeah, look, I've been invited to speak at the disclaiming conference in Geneva late next year.
Wow.
So things have really gone ahead in leaps and bounds.
But and not only that, but you've actually got like a following. It's almost like a cult following, and based off that cult following, we've actually decided to do something, and what that is actually, that's going to be a wee little giveaway, Des. Now, are you going to be okay with giving away a little piece of yourself today, mate?
I will. It's the air cabin announcer that I used in last week's disclaimer.
Well, hang on, Des.
Yes.
Don't downplay it, mate. It is not just the air cabin announcer that you're giving away. It's a certified air cabin announcer. What certification does it have again?
It's BSH1T 2023. So that's a British standard.
Wow.
BSH1T.
So don't downplay it. This is a legitimate
That's the real deal.
certified tool. Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah.
Now, not only that, Des, I believe you were prepared to sign it and send it out with your autograph on it to one lucky listener, or watcher. I guess depends on whether. I suppose you've got to be. Oh, wow! With a mug, Andy's got the mugs. I like how he kept that one quiet. Now, there's in order for an individual to win said certified air cabin announcement tool. What we're asking for here is one watcher of the show. So you've got to be watching live because it's going to be quick. It's not going to take long. It's going to be gone. The first person to accurately identify the inspiration for today's disclaimer in the chat, right? So that's what we're looking for. The first person to pop up into the chat, the inspiration for the disclaimer today wins Des's certified BSH1T air cabin announcement tool. I mean, this is next level. Oh, and a mug, apparently, and a mug. So, no, we're not calling Andy a mug. Andy's got the mugs. That's not just any mug Andy's got. Andy's actually got the Circus of Safety mugs. Mate, not even I've got one, and some lucky listener is going to get one. I mean, I've just got a stock standard cup here, right? But some lucky listener is going to get a certified BSH 1T air cabin announcement tool signed by Des and a mug from Andy. Now, Des, are you ready?
I am indeed. So I hope everyone's listening carefully. But over the last few weeks, I've spent a lot of time thinking about engagement, clear and simple messaging. And I came across a person who has a PhD in this area and has published a few books. A well-known doctor. I thought I might mimic their style and see if this helps. So here it goes. Oh, listen and heed. Here's a legal decree. For this podcast, safety's the key you must see. Though rhymes may be fun and our tips they may gleam, remember, this isn't just a whimsical dream. Consult the experts, the lawyers so bright, for legal advice that's just right in the light. Our words are like treats, a sugary thought, but don't skip the rules that the lawyers have brought. In the land of the workplace with hazards untamed, stay informed, be cautious, don't play the blame game. We share little lessons to help you keep well, but for proper advice, to the experts we tell. So while we might rhyme and we might make you grin, safety's a serious thing, let that sink in. Follow the laws and regulations, oh please, for a workplace as safe as the calmest of seas. Now go on and listen, enjoy every show, but let's keep in mind that safety's the flow. With cat in the hat spirit, we'll rhyme and we'll chat, but don't forget legal stuff's part of all that.
Wow. I'm not surprised you've got a following, mate. Not surprised you've got a following. So just a reminder to our viewers out there, the first person to accurately identify the inspiration for today's disclaimer from Des will win Des's certified BSH 1T air cabin announcement tool signed by him and a mug from Andy. Oh, and look at it. Des, we've got our first person. It's Sarah Tizard. Sarah's throwing it down, right? She just wants to meet Andy, I think, is what's going on here. So, Des, can you see the chat, mate?
I can, and the correct answer is Dr. Seuss. So well done, Sarah. You've won yourself an air cabin announcer.
And a mug.
Be interested to know, Sarah, if you know what his PhD was in.
Well, while we wait for Sarah to kind of Google that, then
that's really cool because I'll personally deliver both as well because I'm meeting with her next Friday.
Wow.
Excellent.
Hey, Andy. Now that we're protected legally, anyway. Any words of wisdom from the world of teaching these days, mate?
Well, I had a horrendous teaching experience this last week.
Please, can you share it, but make it quick?
It's just awful. I can't go beyond that.
Okay, great, awesome.
I'm getting emotional.
Well, let's get on with the show then, because
before we move on, can I just say that it was horrendous, but it was the support via text that I received from you two that got me through. You know, there's helpful comments about why don't you ask the facilitator about some legal case in Australia from 10 years ago. Really helped me through it.
Great. Okay. Are we done? Can we move on?
Yep.
Sorry, I care, but listen, we've got a show to run, mate. This wasn't a personal counselling session. We'll get on to that a little bit later. But really quickly, just a real quick check-in. Your last couple of weeks for you, Des, they've been good. Anything exciting that you got up to, mate?
I went to a safety symposium.
Did you? Wow.
I did, yeah.
Cool. Andy, what about you? Anything exciting you got up to over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I went to a safety symposium.
Guess what I did over the last couple of weeks? Went to a safety symposium. Yeah, how cool was that, guys? The first ever Circus of Safety symposium. Des, I believe you've been beavering away in the background, doing some editing of the videoing that we had.
Yeah, I've arranged some editing, so not all of the footage worked as well as I would have liked, but we did get some nice stuff that's sort of come together. So we might be able to post that up. I'm not sure what we want to do with that yet, but it's looking good.
No,
fantastic. Excellent. Okay, boys. Well, listen, we've got an audience to appease. Let's get into it.
Just before we go any further, can I just say, Brenton?
Yep, sure.
You are coming through on my screen in full Technicolor. You are looking amazing. Like, it's almost as if you sat in my room.
Wow. And that is because I'm powered by Sign On Site, who kindly stepped up and provided me with a very nice MacBook. So I've got to be fair, apart from that symposium, I've done sweet FA all fortnight, apart from playing with setting up the computer. Don't tell my employer that, though. They believe I've been working really hard. I hope nobody from the company that I work for is watching this show, because that could be an awkward performance review next week. But anyway, enough about me. Thank you again to Sign On Site, who's powering me through today's show. Really appreciate that. Here we go, gentlemen. We are onto the wheel. Anything exciting you're looking forward to it landing on?
I want to talk about passion in the industry and etymology. Yeah.
Wow.
I've been looking forward to that one.
Andy, anything specific about you?
Root cause analysis.
Wow. Here we go. Well, hopefully it lands on something Des wants to talk about, because I think you were last show was all about you. So here we go, team. Are we ready for this? Here we go. Yes! Yes! Oh, gotta be honest, this was secretly my favorite. Oh, this was one that I put on the wheel. I am excited. I am beyond ecstatic. In fact, this is just next level. So why don't we just abolish health and safety? I mean, oh, that's awesome. Okay, so let's get into it. Andy, one sentence, one word. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the topic?
What does abolish mean?
Get rid of, gone, see you later, throw it away,
Where? Just
no
get rid
longer.
of legislation, or get rid of all controls?
Oh, here we go. Come on, mate. Let's not overanalyze this. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of all of it. I mean, really? The whole kit and caboodle, gone, in the bin, out of here.
Speed limit's gone? Road signs gone?
Why not? I mean, do people follow speed limits? Do people follow speed limits? Do they follow speed limits? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they do.
Not everyone, though. Let's be fair. Des, anyway, moving on. Someone that's a bit more logical. Des, what are your thoughts? Initial thoughts, shock, awe, inspired? Let's just abolish health and safety, mate.
Well, the initial thought is that seems crazy, but maybe in sort of a mission or a goal sense, long-term strategy for everyone should be everyone that works in health and safety should be to make themselves redundant.
Wow. Okay. That's funny. It's interesting. We all came together like kindred spirits, like a moth around a flame. And it's often, which is quite inspiring, because you make that statement, and it's interesting. The first thing I said whenever I go into a job, and I've bounced around a little bit over the last few years, the first thing I say to people is exactly that. My goal here is to abolish health and safety. My goal in my job is to make myself redundant. I mean, let's be fair, especially listeners of the show, they'll all understand. If people are relying on me to keep them safe, they're in a whole world of problems. I mean, I can barely keep the show together, let alone keep people safe, right? Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Brent?
Yeah. Oh, mate, I say get rid of it. I say abolish it. Although I've got to be fair, I started down this path of abolish health and safety, get rid of it. I'm not a fan. Why do we put it on a pedestal, I guess, is where I was going with it. But then I realized that would be the end of the show. Because what are we just going to call ourselves? The Circus of? I mean, that could work, right? I mean, if we abolish safety, does that mean we abolish the show? I don't know. And I'm having a lot of fun with you guys. I'm really enjoying my time on the show. So I don't quite know. Don't quite know. But really interesting. So let's stick with you, Des, because when we and I hate to admit this, but Andy actually started making a valid point, right? But when we start thinking about abolishing health and safety and getting rid of it, I want to get too excited, Andy. I mean, where do you think we could? Do you think we could draw the line somewhere with abolishing health and safety, or if we get rid of it, do we get rid of it all? What are your sort of thoughts around that? If we were to abolish it, what are we abolishing exactly?
Well, I guess Andy correctly identified several different ways that you could abolish safety. One of them's legal, And I don't know if you could abolish the safety law. I mean, the mechanisms for suing for similar types of breaches existed before we had safety legislation. It was just harder to do that. Now it's been made easier.
Can I throw something at you though, Des, while you're talking about that? Sorry to interrupt you there, but I just want to flash back to our show, a special episode actually on Whakaari White Island, right? One of the things that we spoke about in that show relating to Whakaari White Island was around the legislation used to try to prosecute people for that event. And I was thinking back to that, I think we started going down this road. Was the health and safety legislation the right legislation to be using? So I guess with that in mind, I mean, just refreshing your memory on that, do you think it would be that hard to abolish health and safety legislation and still be able to hold people to account for failings and hurting people?
Well, the mechanisms would still exist, but it would be harder to exercise those mechanisms. You'd need to finance yourself to bring a prosecution or a civil claim against the offender.
Okay, no, fair enough. So something to think about there, I guess. And I can't believe Andy clearly has a kindred spirit in Keith Harvey there, who again hashtag Circus of Safety Dictionary. Keith's comment there, thank you, Keith. How can you abolish something, as in health and safety, when it's not necessarily clearly defined? And I think that's where you started going, Andy. I mean, do you want to kind of elaborate on where you're trying to go with your initial shock and awe? I mean, what are your thoughts on the abolishment of health and safety? And I guess maybe more so, what are we actually possibly abolishing?
Absolutely, and it goes back to what I bang on about pretty much every week, is that the area that we're in is ill-defined, and which is good for it because it generates lots of discussion, but fundamentally is problematic because most people don't really know what they're doing. There's miscommunication. I think trying to abolishing stuff, I don't know if that would work anywhere, but the word criminalize came up, so let's flip it around a bit.
Yep.
Should we criminalize health and safety? Should it be an offence for doing safe things?
Wow. Well, you know, like that's it. You say that and we laugh about it, but how often do we drive around and see people trying to not do things safely? You know, how often do we drive around seeing people break rules? It's almost as, would that be what's the there's a what's the thing where you say something negative to create a positive? Des, come on, you're the smart one here. You try to absolute mind blank.
Like reverse psychology type thing.
That's the one, and I was expecting that from Des. But anyway, Andy will do. I mean, would it be would reverse psychology in health and safety work? I mean, would it make a difference? I mean, people are so busy trying to hide away from their responsibilities. Often, people can't. So if we reverse psychology it, would it make the world a safer place?
I think there was a statement, a study about that, where it was like a traffic situation where pedestrians and traffic interacted, and they were basically removed all of the rules and just said it's just a free-for-all. There's no speed limit, there's no turning signals, there's nothing. And the results were quite positive. I couldn't name the study. I think it was in Northern Europe somewhere, but
yes,
yeah, I've seen that play out.
It was the trigger for Sydney Decker and Safety Differently, that. And they've since tried it in the UK and scrapped it because there was lots of accidents.
So when you say lots of accidents, more accidents than if there are road rules?
Yeah, apparently. So there's some research that I can provide a link to. But one of the interesting things from my previous life when I was a teacher was when we were teaching kids to play soccer and stuff like that. If you put them in sort of five-a-side teams, they'd referee themselves and they'd be honest and truthful. As soon as you stepped into referee, their whole mentality changed. And all of that honesty and integrity seemed to go out the window, and they were relying on the referee to make the decisions. I don't know if that's a reasonable analogy for having a law, then suddenly the whole dynamic changes, as opposed to you lose that sort of goodwill and that sort of sense of community around it and fair play, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get at, I guess, Andy, right? Like, if we go back to your first analogy around the traffic, right? Speed limits are a control against, managing a risk, right? And if people see the speed limit, right, they see it as a target. And when we set targets, we like to, because we're a society of overachievers. I mean, look, we put a man on the moon. We're trying to get to Mars. We're constantly pushing boundaries here, right? Sorry. We want to go beyond safety, right? We want to go beyond compliance. We're just the irony here. We want to be overachievers, so we set those rules almost as if it's almost like, I'm going to argue that we're creating objectives for us to try to beat. That we are trying to create a situation where we've got a system to beat. And I'm going to put it out there. I look at audits as a challenge. You know what I mean? Like, I look at compliance audits as a challenge. How can I get myself around this? How can I overachieve at it? And it becomes quite an ethical dilemma at some point, right?
Absolutely. I think there's a real interesting balance between doing things for the right reasons and doing things because you're told to by rules that are imposed on you. And you tended to be far better motivated as people if you can see the purpose in what you're doing, as opposed to it just being imposed on you. I think there's quite a lot of research in that sort of space. It's quite interesting.
But yeah, fascinating.
We've doing obviously things for the right reasons.
Yeah, very much so. We've obviously got to bee up old Keith's bonnet here because he's charming in again. Charming in again. Thanks, Keith. Keeping the show going, mate. Would abolishing environmental management or quality management go hand in hand with abolishing health and safety? I'm going to say hell yeah. I mean, why not, right? We often say those things are all linked. So if we're going to get rid of one, let's get rid of the other one, I say. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I've got lots of analogies today. I've been up for a little while this morning. Sorry, team. Probably had one too many coffees. But, I mean, so I guess it's fascinating, right? And I'm just going to kind of chime in here with my thoughts because so in my current role, my initial engagement within this organization that I currently work for was as the health, safety and environment manager, right? So a really dedicated role, dedicated to health, safety and environment, hence the title. Recently moved into an operational management role, right? And I think, Andy, you and I had a couple of conversations about this. I was actually quite concerned about that, and I was a little bit worried about is removing a health, safety and environment manager, what is that saying to the business, right? What is that saying about our organization and how we look after safety? And after a number of conversations, the outcome was it actually, I think, provides greater opportunity to create a safer workplace. Because again, what I find is as soon as we put safety on a pedestal, it becomes this thing that people want to knock down. And Kiwis, we are horrific for that. We refer to tall poppy syndrome all the time, right? As soon as we elevate something up and we put it on a pedestal, for whatever reason, our psyche says, let's knock it down. And my worry is by having this standalone health and safety kind of department or health and safety thing, or as Keith pointed out, environmental specific thing or quality thing, are we just creating a psychological target for us to try and beat or knock down? And I've noticed now with the change in my role, I'm actually able to achieve far more in a general operations role as opposed to a very specialized, very specific health and safety role. I mean, Des, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've often come up with this with people giving me feedback in the organizations I work in saying, oh, we want a dedicated safety person on site. And I've always kind of hesitated to go down that path because I don't want that person to become the safety person for that site and the only person responsible for safety, because it would be quite easy for people with other priorities to put all the safety responsibility onto that person, and not take it on themselves and say, well, that person was looking after it. It's not my problem. And I've always hesitated, and this makes me think of that.
I mean, Des, you and I both work in the same industry. I mean, we know Andy doesn't actually work, but I get the same thing, right? Often, and it's fascinating because on one of my sites recently, we've got a dedicated health and safety person. It's an incredibly large site, and the health and safety advisor on that site took some extended leave. And it was really interesting to see the reaction of the business or that site when I came in and said, oh, hey, listen, FYI, your health and safety resource is taking extended leave. Oh, who's replacing them, right? And I was like, oh, I've got no intention of replacing them. I believe that advisor has done exactly what I asked them to do and has advised you, has coached you, has mentored you, has ensured that you got the right systems and tools for you guys to manage your own health and safety. You don't need a dedicated person here. And if you get a really tricky question, give me a call. Oh, no, we've got to have somebody on site, right? And again, if this person that we'd put in there wasn't called a health and safety advisor, was called maybe a general operations business partner, or I don't know, something like that, right? Would the reaction to them taking extended leave have been the same? Probably not, right? Yeah, probably not. I mean, you get a carpenter take extended leave on a regular basis, and they are an incredibly valuable team member on a construction site, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody blinks an eye. It's like, oh well, the carpenter's gone. We'll have to work with what we've got, right? And they are just as valuable as a dedicated health and safety resource, one would argue, on a site. Yeah, I mean, Andy, your thoughts? Do you see anything further to say on where Des and I are going with this, around concerns we have around? I mean, you work in a lot of organisations all across them and support them. I mean, what are you seeing out there at the moment, Andy?
I think it's that age-old question, or that age-old challenge of, fundamentally, we want people to work safely. And it's often captured at the moment that people do work and then do safety. And having an advisor or a safety person amongst a team is often deemed to be the person that does the safety. The chippy does the carpentry, right? And then the safety person does the safety. When really we need to move away from that, and we want our carpenters just to work safely. And that's the only way that it'll ever really work, I think. But there seems to be a huge resistance to doing that, and I think a lot of that's to do with understanding of what safety actually is. Amongst groups of people, and a lot of people's exposure to safety has been paperwork. And people that often go into sort of very sort of hands-on work, they don't like paperwork. That's why they left school when they did. So making safety easy for those people, and actually is a tangible thing. Safety is not about paper; it's about actions. We'll make a difference. We just want our people to work safely. I think that's the only way we'll ever succeed.
I mean, I want to simplify it even further, Andy. We just want our people to work, right? Now if they injure themselves, they can't work, right? If they're unhealthy, they can't work. If they're fatigued, you know what I mean? So it's just about getting stuff done, right? And then I guess because, and I think we've spoken about this before, Des, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. By creating a standalone department, by creating a standalone thing, are we actually creating clutter? Are we creating our own clutter? Are we a self-generating clutter machine? But because we feel like we've got a dedicated safety resource, I've got to justify my job because people are too scared to get made redundant. People don't want to be made redundant. So do we then by default start creating work for ourselves, start creating clutter and bureaucracy to try and justify what we're doing?
I think we're doing it probably with the best of intentions, but yeah, we're definitely creating safety clutter. And I would argue the best of intentions probably isn't a good enough reason on its own to create a lot of that stuff. But from another perspective, I mean, there's a lot of information out there to digest for people who are working on a construction site. You've got everything from the type of hard hat that you need to get, the standard that it needs to be certified to, you need to run PPE trials, you need to have a operational and compliant health and safety committee. There's an absolute host of information that needs to be digested by people who really just want to get on and build the building. I think it helps when you have a safety person that can manage all of that and just say, just be the sounding board when they say, what type of hard hat do we need? I've done the research. This is it. Let's run it through the committee, do a PPE trial and get it put in place.
Cool. Okay. And that's a valid point. Maybe, well, not maybe, that is definitely a valid point. And I think, though, I guess my worry is that by creating the title is like the flame that I just spoke about that brought the three of us together, right? The title, health and safety, people seem to push everything back onto that sort of health and safety professional. I mean, Andy, you're a consultant, right? You go in and would you say you deliver? I mean, do you tell people how do you describe what you do? Do you describe that you deliver health and safety training? And if we were to abolish health and safety, would that affect what you do?
Well, most of the training that I deliver isn't really to do with the legislation. So most of the training that I deliver is to do with accident investigations, which you would want to do anyway, right? Whether you're required by law or not to do safety, you would still need to investigate, and you still need to manage risks. I mean, and I would say that a better description of what I do would be in the risk management space rather than the safety space.
Yeah, well, there we go.
You know,
that's a fascinating,
yeah,
fascinating conversation
for another day.
Oh, I reckon we might want to peel that lid off. I mean, is it maybe not so much then about abolishing health and safety, but maybe just rebranding it, renaming it, re-looking at how we talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. We can go right back to some basic fundamentals and say the whole goal of what we're trying to achieve is to stop people getting hurt, but to keep them in employment and keep the economy going. And it's a balancing act between those two things. And if we can sort of come to some sort of solution around that how we balance that, I don't think the current legislation is particularly good at doing that. I think it's slightly tilted in one way rather than the other.
Okay, no, interesting. Okay, well, hey, sticking with you, Andy. I'm not going to give you a choice here. We've got a challenge by choice show, and the choice is mine. The challenge is yours. That old chestnut, right? Listen, I'm going to tell you, we are abolishing health and safety, right? We're abolishing it. I want you. What can you actually see any pros in the abolishment of health and safety? Bit of a tough question here, I know, if you're not into it, but like I said, my choice, your challenge.
Any pros in abolishing it? I think there's a chance that perversely you would actually increase engagement in activities that are about stopping people getting hurt. Hey!
Wow, mate, that's good thing we record this, right? We can go back and actually grab that. That's cool. That's brilliant. No, that's fair cool. I mean, what about you, right? Like, regardless of what you believe or what you think or what your personal preference is, my choice, your challenge. We are abolishing health and safety. Do you actually see any pros in the abolishment of health and safety?
Yeah, and I think for the same reason that Andy just mentioned, that it might make some people take it a lot more seriously. It's a bit closer to home, but there will be some people who will continue to not take it seriously.
I guess then that's I mean, you look at the show as a classic metaphor for that, right? I mean, you two turn up fortnight after fortnight, ultimate professionals, right? You're prepared, you're researched, you take this thing seriously, right?
Yeah, only to be disappointed by you. Yeah.
Oh,
is that where you're going with this? Sorry.
That was exactly where I was going. I roll in, coming hot every time, unprepared, disorganized, and somehow managed to keep your motley crew going. It's amazing, right?
So could I turn that round onto you then, Brenton? So if safety was abolished, and I came to one of your sites, how would it look different?
I think it would look very different, to be fair. I think it would look incredible. I think it would be a thing of beauty. something to aspire to if we got rid of it. What I think you would see, Andy, is I think you would see people getting on and working, and I think you would see them getting on and working in a way that is right, if that makes sense. So my worry is we have created so much bureaucracy and so much clutter that people are working unnaturally, and I think by abolishing it, you would see people working how they need to be working, right? You'd see people be working in a way that makes sense for the situation that you find yourself in, and I think that would be a thing of beauty. I think it would be a thing of organized chaos, if you can imagine such a thing, chaos being organized, right? Because you might look over to one part of the site, for example, and there'll be people undertaking work activities, which will be fantastic, and they won't be wearing a hard hat. Heaven forbid they're on a construction site not wearing a hard hat. Why? Because there's no need to wear the hard hat over there, right? You'd look to your right and you'd see work activities taking place, and you would see people wearing a hard hat. And that is because there is a need to wear a hard hat. But I think what ends up happening, and it's fascinating, I've had this conversation with some of my own site managers around why are we wearing a hard hat? Oh, because we have to. Why do we have to? Because safety says we have to. And to be doing something just because somebody perceives health and safety said so, I think is the wrong reason to be doing it. And so I think it'd be a thing of beauty, to be fair, Andy, if we abolished health and safety, an absolute thing of beauty. We'd have to go back to rebranding the show. I just want to stick with that, though. I want to focus on us because it's not about anybody else. It's about us. I'm quite enjoying this little get-together we have, and we need to work on rebranding. But I think if you went to one of my sites, I think you would see a thing of beauty. I think you would see a thing of organized chaos, really. It'd be great.
I love that answer, because the question was, what would your site look like if we abolished safety? And you said that it would be people working right, people working naturally. It'll be a thing of beauty, which implies that your sites are currently none of those things at this very moment.
What's WorkSafe's number?
You ring WorkSafe. We will be ticking boxes like there's no tomorrow. But there's you go to the sites now, and the feeling I get is it's a feeling of unease, a feeling of unnaturalism, a feeling of who's going to catch me out, right? And it's a feeling of people are too scared to think because of this overarching thing called health and safety, and so you could go to one of my sites now and listen, they're not going to be perfect because no site is perfect, right? Because again, if there are rules, if there are these things, people will try what they can, intentionally or unintentionally, to navigate around them, right? I wonder, it's like kids stealing lolly from the candy jar, right? I mean, all kids do it. I mean, we all probably stole liquor from our parents' liquor cabinet at some point, right? Let's be honest about that. I mean, I'm still stealing liquor from my parents' liquor cabinet, and I'm definitely not a child, So I think, right now you go to my sites, you see a sense of unease. I think you see a sense of worry. You see a sense of nervousness and unnaturalism, if that is even a word. So those are my thoughts anyway. So Des, well then, sticking with you, mate. If we were to abolish health and safety, because that's what the wheels landed on. Do you see any traps in this? Any traps in abolishing health and safety?
Yeah, and it's what I pointed to before, is that some things are really complicated, and there's a lot of information out there to digest, and I don't think that you could you would struggle to do your trade as well as digest all of that information. I think it would be difficult. You'd need that support. So if you were abolishing health and safety, you'd probably need someone that had that knowledge to support the organization.
Yep, not interesting. Yep, see your point. Definitely see your point there. Andy, I mean, your thoughts, if we were to abolish health and safety tomorrow, what do you see as the traps for that?
I think one of the, going back to what you were saying, which you made some very good points, Brenton.
Oh, thank you.
There's no surprise in my voice there. It's just the way I speak. That whole, why do we wear a hard hat? Because safety says so. That's really I find that really fascinating, because you wear a hard hat to stop your head getting hurt. And
I
that's
know
the,
that.
that,
You
that's
know
the
that.
yeah, and that's the answer that we should get. So I think there's been a huge problem in the marketing of safety over many years.
Moth to a flame, mate.
Yeah,
Moth to a
absolutely,
flame.
and that imposing things on people. One of the interesting things about the hard hat issue on construction sites, though, is if it's compulsory on sites, it reduces the chance of lapses. So it reduces the chance of people moving from an area where they don't need it to where they do need it and not putting it on.
I'm
And when you're
gonna
in,
argue that point. Actually,
that's cool. But you can argue that. That's
I
fantastic.
think you're dumbing down people. Is my opinion. You're making people stupid.
No, I would disagree. I just think that it's part of life and part of being human is to
Being stupid.
make mistakes and forget things. And if you're inside a building doing some roofing, doing some ceiling, whatever the people do with ceilings, in a residential construction site, and suddenly you walk out and you got to wear your hard hat inside. It's stupid, I get it. But if you walk outside all of a sudden while somebody's lifting some stuff and it falls on you, then you don't have to think about putting your hard hat on.
You see, there's your first problem. We need to take this guy to a construction site and educate him.
You're
You
joking.
cannot.
That place is a death traps.
You cannot compare a residential construction site. Those guys are cowboys, mate, to a commercial site, right? In fact, you cannot compare the two, right?
So we're only abolishing safety on basically the field that you two work in.
Yeah, that's because they've already abolished it on residential sites. Like
it was never there.
Just apologies, firstly. Thank God we got a disclaimer. Just apologies to anybody that works in the residential construction game. Well, okay. No, I mean that's I guess that's the whole point of this, right? And there's arguments for and against, and I guess it's just fascinating to have that conversation, right? Yeah, and I guess I just want, and that's one of the reasons for the show, isn't it, guys? I mean, it's about people actually thinking about what we're doing and not just doing it for the sake of doing it. So, yeah, cool. I mean, listen, I know that it's crazy. You know, when that wheel first spun, you probably thought, "Well, how am I going to talk about this for a while?" But what do you know? Time is wrapping up. And the show's getting on, so it's time to sort of wrap up. I mean, Des, your final thoughts on the topic, on the conversation we've just been having. I mean, what are your takeaways?
Well, I'm glad you use the example of hard hats as well, because to me that indicates the use of a blanket rule, and I don't think that blanket rules are actually comply with the intention and the wording of the act. So if anyone's got a blanket rule, might want to look at the fact that you've got to risk assess in each individual task.
See, Andy,
and maybe hard hats is the wrong example for that, because I actually agree with Andy that sometimes maintaining compliance can be an issue. But
what are you complying with?
Say it's reverse parking in all instances. I think that having a blanket rule on those types of things is potentially safety being lazy and incompetent. And maybe it should be abolished in those types of circumstances.
Because just on that, mate, with reverse parking, do you know how hard it is to get something out of your boot when you've reverse parked and there's like no space behind you? Do you know how that is? You've got to climb in through the front seat and over the back seat, and it's just chaos. Just chaos. No, great. Thanks, Des. Anything else, mate, to wrap up the show? On that topic?
Don't think so. I think we should throw over to Andy.
Yeah, Andy, what are your thoughts, mate? What's your wrap up on the topic?
Very interesting concept. I think, in my mind, it's suffering from a branding issue as health and safety. So let's abolish the term, call it something else. I think that would be very helpful. But then we'd also need to use the new term and the new philosophy to educate everybody else, because it's like you've indicated, Brendan, it's not happy out there. People are still very much focused on we're being told to do safety, as opposed to, hey, by doing safety, I won't die today. Which is
the ultimate goal.
Which is the ultimate goal. It's an incredibly hard sell when it should be the easiest sell in the world. If you do this stuff, you'll still have both arms at the end of the day, you know. But people just want to push back on it, and I find that really fascinating. And this sort of pulls together a lot of the other discussions we've had, doesn't it? It's quite nice the way it's pulled it all together.
It sure does. Yeah, and I guess I mean that's where I'm kind of going. I just want us to think about how we're approaching this stuff. I mean, I guess my thoughts, my final thoughts. I mean, I think you can abolish it without abolishing it. If that's the biggest contradiction of all contradictions today. I think if we keep the framework, if we keep the intention behind what we're trying to do, but we abolish the branding, we abolish the 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 perceived big brother, the perception of that aspect of it, to stop people looking over the shoulder, to create that dictatorial type approach. I think there's benefits. I think my final wrap ups and takeaway for the show is I think you can do both. I think you can keep it, but you can get rid of it. You can abolish it, but you can still have it. And I know that's a contradiction in itself, but I think there's a little bit of food for thought there. Now, I'm not suggesting we go down the road and kind of, I don't know, create another thing called Safety 2 or whatever, or no safety. I don't know, but I'm just thinking we just talk about getting stuff done, right? And we aim to do that. So, no, great conversation, guys, and I love the fact again that I just don't agree with anything you two say. It's brilliant. Now. Mate, what have you got coming up over the next couple of weeks? Got any more safety symposiums you're going to?
Before I launch into that, I just love the fact that you said we should talk about getting stuff done. Not getting stuff done, just talk about getting stuff done.
Yeah, mate, I don't actually do anything. Have you seen these hands? Look at them. Look at these hands, mate. They don't do anything. I mean, obviously I work very hard when I'm in the office, but yeah. Anyway, carry on. There's anything exciting in the next couple of weeks, mate?
It's end of year strategy discussions, which I quite enjoy actually.
Yeah, I love the end of the year. Christmas parties, drinking, eating. I love it. Love end of year stuff, Des. Great. Thanks for the reminder, mate. It'd be really interesting to have that conversation with you once you've gone through that, and maybe not necessarily analyze the detail, but analyze. Have you come up with anything new and exciting? You know what I mean? What are you going to be doing differently that you did for the last 5 years, for example? And does a strategy day actually make a difference? Maybe we could put that on the wheel. Does safety planning make safety better? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Andy, what about you, mate? What do you got coming up over the next couple of weeks?
Oh, I'm off to South Island next week.
Nice.
Speaking at
catch up with Sarah.
Health and Safety Reps safety conference thing. Presenting a talk on psychological safety, which is something that interests me.
Greatly, I can tell.
That'll be good. I've been doing a lot of reading about it.
Fantastic.
And yourself, Brenton, what are you up to?
Yeah, good. I've just suddenly had a concern pop up. I need to double check my diary. Actually, I am incredibly privileged, and I am currently serving an internship with InchPo, and we've spoken about them a couple of times in the global qualifications framework and the like. But as part of that, I'm heading off to Sydney in a couple of weeks, and we're heading over to an InchPo workshop where I'm going to be kind of facilitating one of the workshops there, which is quite exciting. And our sort of board meeting, but also a invigorating few days at the World Safety Congress. So I've just got to make sure that I've planned my flights around the show, really. Otherwise, I might be trying to stream it off a Wi-Fi off an airplane. I might need your cabin announcement tool, Des. So yeah, no, really excited, mate. Just full steam ahead planning to head over to Sydney to see the World Safety Congress. So listen, just again, this is all about me. Don't worry about Des or Andy. Any of our Australian listeners going to be at the World Safety Congress in Sydney in November? Want to catch up, do a coffee? Let's do it. Let's have a chat, and let's see where it takes us.
Take some mugs across.
I can't take you with me, mate. Sorry. Can't take you with me.
Good.
Like how quick I was at that.
Hey, so
listen, again, something just to all our sort of viewers out there, something Des, Andy, and I talk about on a regular basis. We're incredibly flattered, and I don't know about the other boys, but overwhelmed by the response and the support that we're getting for this wee little thing we call the Circus of Safety. The engagement we're getting both publicly on the LinkedIn page and individual messages being sent has just been phenomenal. And just as part of that, I just want to acknowledge one of our recent followers to the page. Hopefully he's tuning in. I don't quite know what the time zone is. And you ask, why the time zone, Brenton? Well, this follower, I think he may be our first, boys, from Pakistan. So we have broken onto the largest continent in the world. So a big shout out to Hamad Khan, who is a health, safety and environment officer at the National Technical Services for Pakistan. So, hey mate, listen, thanks for liking the page. Thanks for joining in on the show. Look forward to you contributing at some point. Yeah, so I guess, guys, till the next one, I guess we'll see you hopefully in a fortnight.
Thanks very much. See you then.
Thanks very much. See you then.
No worries. Take care.